What's up, everybody? Hello, happy Monday. Happy Monday after Easter. We are risen, baby. We are risen back into Class A. We'll be getting back into magic today and into one of the most sacred symbols of magic and perhaps in most of human existence. So I hope you're all looking forward to that. Um, in just a quick minute, I got to run and grab some stuff out of the laundry, but it'll be a real quick one. But in the meantime, we got at least time to make sure the sound's working. Maybe get our tarot card pulled and start into it a little bit. But in the meantime, we got at least time to make. That's right, we do. Awesome. Okay, so the sound is working. Check. Let's go ahead and get our other stuff going. Music. Oh, what are you doing that for? I didn't want you to open that. Come on. Okay, music check. And then back to the chat. So this is Jay Baldale, and welcome to my channel. Today is a sacred today. Once your goddess, welcome in. Great to see you. Yep, a sacred day, because not only is it the Monday after Easter, so we've all been reborn in the light of Christ, in the light of Tiphareth, but it's also my cat's birthday. And she has got a lot to say today, so you might hear her in the back like she does from time to time. I can't say that and not think of Pineapple Express. How many of you saw that? And when they go to Red's house, why are you baking a cake, man? I'm baking it's because it's my cat's birthday today. I don't see a cat. Yeah, that's because my cat died. So who's the funny guy now? But it's tradition. Every year, I'll get up extra early and bake my cat a cake on his birthday. All right, then. Well, so, yep, happy birthday to her. Happy resurrection to Christ and the Christ within you. Happy back to Class A Monday. And hopefully, just, I don't know, whatever you got cooking in life, you're feeling happy about it. You're feeling confident about it. And if not, then just remember the pendulum always swings back the other way. Like our teachings from the Buddhist class. This thing has changed, baby. And that much you can take to the bank that whatever you got going on now, well, it'll change. It might take a minute, but it'll change. And let's see, Vken says, who is this Ham Rider? You mean like this book here? And D'Artagnan says, are you Illuminati? Absolutely, without a single doubt. And welcome into all of you. Okay, then. Ham Rider, like Dane Ironfoot, dude, and he had that sick pig mount where he had like that warthog he was riding into the battle of the five armies on. Okay, well, let me hurry and get shuffled and then pull a card, and then my timer's gonna go off, so I'll go run and grab that laundry real quick, but that'll be a quick grab because it's just a blanket. Easy one. Book of Thoth, it's Class A. We are risen. What do you want to tell us today in our top secret Illuminati meeting? Our ham riding Illuminati meeting. Our cat's birthday Illuminati meeting. That's what it was. Again with the indolence, bro. Again. All right. Well, that one jumps. So I'm going to do what we do sometimes with the jump, and I'm going to actually pull one along with the jump to see what it's got to say. And D'Artagnan asks, do you know Nordics? I might know a few, but I guess that depends on what your definition of a Nordic is. And Jace asks, are you Sati-in? Or maybe it's Sati-in. I have no idea what Sati-in is, Jace. Maybe you mean maybe that's a typo, or maybe you're from a different culture and that means something to you, and I don't know what it means to me. Okay, this is our other one. Who to go along with our 8 of Cups. Let me run and grab that laundry and then we'll get into it. But we've got 8 cups and 7 swords today, Monday. 8 cups and 7 swords, huh? Oh yeah, now that's some clean laundry. Dude, am I really gonna have to wash you again? Shoot. Well, I'll worry about that later. That's the downside to cats, is sometimes they make their mess on things that you don't want them to make their mess on, or just any pet in general, huh? But we love them nonetheless. Oh, and now where are you running off to, huh? Now, come here. Come on. All right, now I got to go get a cat, too. Well, that's okay. Today is her day. She would do it any day, but we all of us as a team have got more patience. Come here. Come on. Okay. Oh yeah. All right, back and ready to go. D'Artagnan asks, "Where do you live?" I live on the planet Earth. And Not Days says, "Are you against Christianity, or do you just not believe in it?" I love Christianity personally, and I very much believe in what some of the Christian teachings have to offer. Okay, my most beautiful, most wonderful people. So, the moon in Libra and 7 swords, and then Saturn in Pisces, 8 cups. So, we just got that 8 of Cups again. Wasn't it just last week? And we talked about how that's like the sponge, baby, being wrung out. The stormy seas. Okay, but we also see that a bit in this 7 of Swords here, because this one is titled with futility. So indolence and futility. Well, that's a maybe we could say synonymous in a sense. You know, we got the airiness, we got the mind, the cups, the emotions, the creativity. So maybe we've been feeling a little tapped. Maybe Aries season, the fires of Aries are burning a little hot for us. Huh. Moon and Saturn. And then also Netzach and Hod. So what connects these two? And that's going to be the Tower card. So we could see that summed up a little bit here too, where these planetary energies within the mind are all turned back on that Tiphereth center, doing war to yourself with your thoughts a bit, that reflectiveness of the moon, that balance of Libra, getting a little thrown off. And then too, Pisces, Saturn, death of the dream right now. Well, I know that's how it's been feeling a little bit for me lately. But you know, again, where the pendulum always swings back. So even if a little bit lately, where it's been feeling a little exhausted in these elemental areas of our life and in these spheres upon the tree, our intellect, our creativity. Well, the important thing to remember is it's going to bounce back. And it's important to remember, too, that while you're here, though, not to be fighting against it, not to be in resistance to it. You know, stand firm, keep a good foundation. We also see that with the moon, right? Yesod, the foundation. and the Libra aspect too. So it's about kind of coming back from that. And again, from what looks like a bad situation with this Saturn and Pisces, but those are also very important and valuable energies in terms of the planetary and astrological sense. So whatever's got you down, whatever's got you squoze a little thin, whatever's got you feeling like you're at war with yourself in the mind a bit, try to learn from it. Make sure you really sit with it and learn from it, so that way you can begin to heal that and grow from that, mature from that, right, in your life. And then, okay, let's see, we've got D'Artagnan says, are you European? Not Days says, wait, are you a Christian then? And D'Artagnan says, can you say my future? Let's see, am I a European? Like, as in, do I live in Europe or are my ancestors European? Either way, I'm probably not going to answer your question. And because why do you care? And Not Days, wait, are you a Christian then? I would say I'm a Christian in as much as I follow what Christ taught. And I do apply aspects of Christianity into my life. So in as much as that, then the answer is yes. But in as much as what most people consider to be a Christian, probably not. And D'Artagnan, about can I say your future? Yeah, I've got a really solid feeling that you're going to ask me more questions that I don't know what you feel that is so necessary to ask. But hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Like, what does any of that matter? You know what I mean? Why are you so worried about those type of things? What difference does that make to what we're doing on over here? Not Days says, what is your main religion? God, capital G, God. I don't really have an answer for that because I don't really follow a main religion and I don't really define myself in such ways. But today we're going to learn about the pentagram. Oh yeah, that's going to be fun. So hopefully you guys have been looking forward to it. Let me get some water and then let's do it. Okay, so back to Transcendental Magic, Éliphas Lévi. I already said it, but this is Jay Baldell. Welcome to my channel. If you're new and you end up enjoying this content, then please hit a like. And also, you might find it beneficial to hit that notification bell if you want more of this content, that is. Okay. So like we have been doing with this book, we're going to keep doing, especially because these ones are a bit on the shorter side. Chapter 5 of the Doctrine. I want to say Dogma every time because that's what it was originally titled. Same difference. The Doctrine, and then we'll get into Chapter 5 of the Ritual. And no problem, Not Days. Okay, so Chapter 5, He, or E. And there's a note saying 5 is the number of the soul, which is the queen of the 4 elements. From Mysterie de la Kabbale. It is also the religious number. It's probably Kabbalah. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a French 1. That's about all I took of French 1. It is also the religious number, combining that of the deity with that which belongs to woman. It's from Le Clef de Grand Mysterie. All right, what's going on now? Come on, music. Okay, hereunto we have exposed the magical dogma in its more arid and abstruse phases. Now the enchantments begin. Now we can proclaim wonders and reveal most secret things. The pentagram signifies the dominion of the mind over the elements and the demons of air. The spirits of fire, the phantoms of water, and the ghosts of earth are enchained by this sign. Equipped therewith and suitably disposed, you may behold the infinite through the medium of that faculty which is like the soul's eye, and you will be ministered unto by legions of angels and hosts of fiends. But here, in the first place, let us establish certain principles. There is no invisible world. There are, however, many degrees of perfection in organs. The body is the coarse and, as it were, the perishable cortex of the soul. The soul can perceive of itself and independently of the mediation of physical organs by means of its sensibility and its diaphany. The things, both spiritual and corporeal, which are existent in the universe. Spiritual and corporeal are simply terms which express the degrees of tenuity or density in substance. What is called the imagination within us is only the soul's inherent faculty of assimilating the images and reflections contained in the living light, being the great magnetic agent. And then there's a footnote saying, it is said elsewhere that the universal light is comparable to divine imagination, and that this world which suffers incessant mutation, though it remains invariable as regards of the laws of its configuration, is an immense dream of God. So oh, that's an important one. You know what? I probably should have highlighted that one. This world which suffers incessant mutation, though it remains invariable as regards the laws of its configuration, a pound is a pound, is an immense dream of God. So, yep, what's the point of measuring an illusion? It's just an illusion. Why would we measure an illusion? Well, because we all end up getting the same measurements for the most part. And D'Artagnan says, your soul have so much weight. Thanks, bro. I am thick. That's a fact. Such images and reflections are revelations when science intervenes to reveal us their body or light. The man of genius differs from the dreamer and the fool in this only, that his creations are analogous to truth, while those of the fool and the dreamer are lost reflections and beried images. Hence, for the wise man, to imagine is to see, as for the magician, to speak is to create. It follows that, by means of the imagination, demons and spirits can be beheld really and in truth. But the imagination of the adept is diaphanous, whilst that of the crowd is opaque. The light of truth traverses the one as ordinary light passes through clear glass, and is refracted by the other, as when ordinary light impinges upon a vitreous block full of scoriae and foreign matter. That's like scoriae, that's like volcanic rock. That which most contributes to the errors of the vulgar is the reflection of depraved imaginations, one in the other. But in virtue of positive science, the seer knows that what he imagines is true, and the event invariably confirms his vision. And a note says, that magnetic light, which enables the future to be foreseen, reveals also the hidden things of the present. Being universal life, it is the agent of human sensibility, transmitting diseases to some and health to others, according to the fatal influence of contacts or the laws of will. This explains the power of blessings and of spells, so plainly recognized by the great adepts and above all by the marvelous Paracelsus. We shall state in the ritual after what manner this lucidity can be acquired. Hey, you're okay. Come here. She says, it's my birthday and I'll cry if I want to. It is by means of this light that static visionaries place themselves in communication with all worlds, as so frequently occurred to Swedenborg, who notwithstanding was imperfectly lucid, seeing that he did not distinguish reflections from rays, and often intermingled chimerical fancies with his most admirable dreams. We say dreams because dream is the consequence of a natural and periodical ecstasy, which we term sleep. To be in ecstasy is to sleep. Magnetic somnambulism is a production and direction of ecstasy. And there's a good note on that saying, in sleep, the soul loses for a time its individual life and plunges in the universal life, which manifests, as we have said, by two contrary currents. Sleep is a bath in the light of life or in the phosphorus of death. He who enters into slumber, carrying just thoughts, bathes in the merits of the just. But he who falls asleep nourishing false thoughts or thoughts of hatred is immersed in the Dead Sea. where ebbs and flows the infection of the wicked. He who sleeps in impiety shall not awaken in divine benediction. And as well, it is said more clearly that we are immersed in the astral light by sleep. The errors which occur therein are occasioned by reflections from the diaphany of waking persons, and above all, of the magnetizer. Dream is vision produced by the refraction of a ray of truth. Dream, I read that one. Chimerical fantasy is hallucination occasioned by a reflection. The temptation of St. Anthony, with its nightmares and its monsters, represents the confusion of reflections with direct rays. So long as the soul struggles, it is reasonable. When it yields to this species of invading intoxication, it becomes mad. To disentangle the direct ray and separate it from the reflection, such is the work of the initiate. Here, let us state distinctly that this work is being performed continually in the world by some of the flower of mankind, that there is hence a permanent revelation by intuition, and that there is no insuperable barrier which separates souls, because there are no sudden interruptions and no high walls in nature by which minds can be divided from one another. All is transition and blending. Wherefore, assuming the perfectibility, if not infinite, at least indefinite, can attain to see all, and therefore to know all. There is no void in nature, all is peopled. There is no true death in nature, all is alive. Seest thou that star? Asked Napoleon of Cardinal Fesch. No, sire. I see it, said the emperor, and he most certainly did. And Cosmic Traveler, good afternoon to you. I hope all is well in your world. When great men are accused of superstition, it is because they behold what remains unseen by the crowd. 1 second. Okay. Men of genius differ from simple seers by their faculty of communicating sensibly to others that which they themselves perceive, and of mankind themselves believed by the force of enthusiasm and sympathy. Such persons are the media of the divine word. Forget social media. You're hopefully you're working to be divine media. Let us now specify the manner in which visions operate. All forms correspond to ideas, and there is no idea which has not its proper and peculiar form. The primordial light, which is the vehicle of all ideas, is the mother of all forms, and transmits them from emanation to emanation, merely diminished or modified according to the density of the media. Secondary forms are reflections which return to the font of the emanated light. The forms of objects, being a modification of light, remain in the light where the reflection consigns them. Hence, the astral light or terrestrial fluid, which we call the great magnetic agent, is saturated with all kinds of images or reflections. Now, our soul can evoke these and subject them to its diaphany, as the Kabbalists term it. And a big note on that says, in a later work, Éliphas Lévi referred to the diaphany or translucid under the name of the plastic mediator, described otherwise as a magnet which attracts or repels the astral light under the impetus of will. It is a luminous body which produces forms analogous to ideas with the greatest facility. It is the mirror of imagination and is nourished by the astral light precisely as the organic body is nourished by the products of the earth. In sleep, it absorbs the astral light by immersion, and during waking by a kind of respiration, less or more slow. From Le Clef de Grand Mysterie. But it says, from that book, see also, where it is said, that the plastic mediator is that portion of astral light which is specialized in each of us and serves us by the assimilation and configuration of the elements necessary to our existence. Our will acts directly thereupon, shaping the mediator in its own image and endowing it with aptitude in conformity with its proper tendencies. Levy argues herefrom that moral monstrosity produces physical ugliness. For the astral mediator, that interior architect of our corporeal edifice, modifies unceasingly in accordance with our real or factitious needs. So that could be summed up in like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Or be careful what you wish for, or any of that type of stuff. The more you tell yourself a certain thing, the more that thing starts to become true. Such images are always present before us and are effaced only by the more powerful impressions of reality during waking hours or by preoccupation of the mind, which makes our imagination inattentive to the fluidic panorama of the astral light. When we sleep, this spectacle presents itself spontaneously before us, and in this way dreams are produced. Dreams vague and incoherent if some governing will do not remain active during the sleep, giving, even unconsciously, to our intelligence a direction to the dream which then transforms into vision. Animal magnetism is nothing but an artificial sleep produced by the voluntary or enforced union of two wills, one of which is awake while the other slumbers. That is, one of which directs the other in the choice of reflections for the transformation of dreams into visions and the attainment of truth by means of images. Thus, somnambulists do not actually travel to the place where they are sent by the magnetizer. They evoke its images in the astral light and can behold nothing which does not exist in that light. The astral light has a direct action on the nerves, which are its conductors in the animal economy, transmitting it to the brain. It follows that, in a state of somnambulism, it is possible to see by means of the nerves without being dependent on radiant light, the astral fluid being a latent light in the same way that psychics recognize the existence of a latent caloric. Magnetism between two persons is certainly a wonderful discovery, but the magnetizing of a person by himself, awakening his own lucidity and directing it himself at will, is the perfection of magical art. The secret of this great work does not remain for discovery. It has been known and practiced by a great number of initiates, above all by the celebrated Apollonius of Tyana, who has left a theory concerning it, as we shall see in the ritual. The secret of magnetic lucidity and the direction of the phenomena of magnetism depend on two things: agreement of minds and complete union of wills, in a direction which is possible and determined by science. This is for the operation of magnetism between two or more persons. Solitary magnetism requires preparations of which we have spoken in our initial chapter, when enumerating and establishing in all their difficulty the essential qualities of a veritable adept. In the following chapters, we shall elucidate further this important and fundamental point. The empire of our will over the astral light, which is the physical soul of the four elements, is represented in magic by the pentagram, placed at the head of this chapter. The elementary spirits are subservient to this sign when employed with understanding, and by placing it in the circle or on the table of evocations, they can be rendered tractable, which is magically called their imprisonment. Let us explain this marvel briefly. All created beings communicate with one another by signs, and all adhere to a certain number of truths expressed by a determinate form. The perfection of forms increases in proportion to the emancipation of spirits, and those that are not overweighted by the chains of matter recognize by intuition out of hand whether a sign is the expression of a real power or of a precipitate will. The intelligence of the wise man therefore gives value to his pentacle, as science gives weight to his will, and spirits comprehend this power immediately. Thus, by means of the pentagram, spirits can be forced to appear in vision, whether in the waking or sleeping state, by themselves leading before our diaphany their reflection, which exists in the astral light, if they have lived, or a reflection analogous to their spiritual logos if they have not lived on earth. This explains all visions and accounts for the dead invariably appearing to seers, either such as they were upon earth or such as they are in the grave, never as they subsist in a condition which escapes the perceptions of our actual organism. Pregnant women are influenced more than others by the astral light, which concurs in the formation of the child and offers them incessant reminiscences of the forms that abound therein. This explains how it is that women of the highest virtue deceive the malignity of observers by equivocal resemblances. On the fruit of their marriage, they impress frequently an image which has struck them in dream, and it is thus that the same physiognomies, there we go, the same physiognomies are perpetuated from generation to generation. The Kabbalistic usage of the pentagram can determine, therefore, the appearance of unborn children, and an initiated woman might endow her son with the characteristics of Nero or Achilles, or with those of Louis the 14th or Napoleon. We shall indicate the method in our ritual. The pentagram is called in Kabbalah the sign of the microcosm, that sign so exalted by Goethe in the beautiful monologue of Faust. Ah, how do all my senses leap at this sight! I feel the young and sacred pleasure of life quivering in my nerves and veins. Was it a god who traced this sign, which stills the vertigo of my soul, fills my poor heart with joy, and in a mysterious rapture unveils the forces of nature around me? Am I myself a god? All is so clear to me. I behold in these simple lines the revelation of active nature to my soul. I realize for the first time the truth of the wise man's words. The world of spirits is not closed. Thy sense is obtuse, thy heart is dead. Arise, bathe, O adept of science, thy breast, still enveloped by an earthly veil in the splendors of the dawning day. That's right, arise, we are risen, baby, Class A. Easter Monday, day after, Class A, arise. On the 24th of July in the year 1854, the author of this book, Éliphas Lévi, made an experiment of evocation with the pentagram, after due preparation according to all the ceremonies indicated in the 13th chapter of the ritual. The success of this experiment, details of which, as regards its principles, will be found in the corresponding chapter of the present doctrinal part, establishes a new pathological fact, which men of true science will admit without difficulty. The experience, repeated even to a third time, gave results truly extraordinary, but positive and unmixed with hallucination. We invite skeptics to make a conscientious and intelligent trial on their own part before shrugging their shoulders and smiling. The figure of the pentagram, completed in accordance with science and used by the author in his experiment, is that which is found at the head of this chapter, and it is more perfect than any in the keys of Solomon or in the magical calendars of Tycho Brahe and Dochenteau. We must remark, however, that the use of the pentagram is most dangerous for operators who are not in possession of its complete and perfect understanding. The direction of the points of the star is in no sense arbitrary and may change the entire character of an operation, as we shall explain in the ritual. Oh. Paracelsus, that innovator in magic who surpassed all other initiates. Oh, come on. There we go. In his unaided practical success, affirms that every magical figure and every Kabbalistic sign of the Pentacles which compels spirits may be reduced to two, which are the synthesis of all others. These are the sign of the macrocosm, or the seal of Solomon, the form of which we have given already, and that of the microcosm, more potent even than the first, that is to say, the pentagram, of which he provides a most minute description in his occult philosophy. If it be asked how a sign can exercise so much power over spirits, we inquire in return why the whole Christian world bows down before the sign of the cross. And there's a note right there saying, a simple scapular worn by a truly Christian person is a more invincible talisman than the ring and pantacle of Solomon. Oh, they don't want to hear it. The Mass is the most prodigious of evocations. What are all talismans of antique science in the presence of a consecrated host? Dang. The sign is nothing by itself and has no force apart from the doctrine of which it is the summary and the logos. Now, a sign which summarizes in their expression all the occult forces of nature, a sign which has ever exhibited to elementary spirits and others a power greater than their own, fills them naturally with respect and fear, enforcing their obedience by the empire of science and of will over ignorance and weakness. By the pentagram also is measured the exact proportions of the great and unique athanor necessary to the confection of the philosophical stone and the accomplishment of the great work. The most perfect alembic in which the quintessence can be elaborated is conformable to this figure, and the quintessence itself is represented by the sign of the pentagram. Nice. Okay. And get you motivated. What up? Welcome. Great to see you. Much love to you. All right, so that does it for the doctrine of the pentagram. So now let's jump back to the ritual of the pentagram. All right, a little bit of water and we'll do it. Okay, chapter 5, the blazing pentagram. We proceed to the explanation and consecration of the sacred and mysterious pentagram. At this point, let the ignorant and superstitious close the book. They will either see nothing but darkness, or they will be scandalized. The pentagram, which in Gnostic schools is called the blazing star, is the sign of intellectual omnipotence and autocracy. It is the star of the Magi. It is the sign of the Word made flesh, and according to the direction of its points, this absolute magical symbol represents order or confusion. The divine Lamb of Ormuz and St. John, or the accursed goat of Mendes. It is initiation or profanation. It is Lucifer or Vesper, the star of morning or evening. It is Mary or Lilith, victory or death, day or night. I remember Manly P. Hall said the same thing. Some of you might remember anyway, where he even talked about how, at least I'm pretty certain it was Manly P. Hall, where he was talking about he was at like a gathering, like a little party or something, and some like some spooky Satan people came in with their inverted pentagrams, and he's like, man, if those would have actually been charged up, that would have been a really bad time. But luckily, like, I think even Éliphas Lévi has said it. I know Dion Fortune has definitely said it. That for the most part, most people are that claim to be magicians are protected by their own ineptitude. So their lack of actually being a magician protects them from actually like really doing serious damage. The pentagram with 2 points in the ascendant represents Satan as the goat of the Sabbath. When 1 point is in the ascendant, it is the sign of the Savior, right? The 5 wounds of Christ. The pentagram is the figure of the human body, having the 4 limbs and a single point representing the head. A human figure, head downwards, naturally represents a demon. That is intellectual subversion, disorder, or madness. Now, if magic be a reality, if occult science be really the true law of the 3 worlds, this absolute sign, this sign ancient as history and more ancient, should and does exercise an incalculable influence upon spirits set free from their material envelope. The sign of the pentagram is called the sign of the microcosm, and it represents what the Kabbalists of the book Zohar term the microprosopis. Oh, you know what? It might have been Ophel that was saying that. I can't remember for sure. It's either Manly P. Hall or Ophel. I'm pretty sure it was one of those two. But yeah, that basically that because these pentagrams weren't actually charged up, they were practically worthless. But had they actually been charged up and in that inverted way, oh man, it would have turned a good night into a bad night real quick. The complete comprehension of the pentagram is the key of the two worlds. It is absolute philosophy and natural science. The sign of the pentagram should be composed of the seven metals, or at least traced in pure gold upon white marble. It may be also drawn with vermilion on an unblemished lambskin, the symbol of integrity and light. The marble should be virgin, that is, should never have been used for another purpose. The lambskin should be prepared under the auspices of the sun. The lamb must have been slain at Paschal time with a new knife. Good thing it was just Paschal time, huh? Easter. So hopefully you all went ahead and did that as part of your Easter ritual. Hopefully you learned that in some of these courses you spent your money on. And the skin must be salted with salt consecrated by magical operations. The omission of even one of these difficult and apparently arbitrary ceremonies makes void the entire success of the great works of science. Uh-oh. The pentagram is consecrated with the four elements. The magical figure is breathed on 5 times. It is sprinkled with holy water. It is dried by the smoke of 5 perfumes, namely incense, myrrh, aloes, sulfur, and camphor, to which a little white resin and ambergris may be added. The 5 breathings are accompanied by the utterance of names attributed to the 5 genii, who are Gabriel, Raphael, Anael, Samael, and Oriphiel. It's interesting you put Oriphiel in there and Samael because their function is essentially the same, at least to my understanding. Afterwards, the pentacle is placed successively at the north, south, east, west, and center of the astronomical cross, pronouncing at the same time, one after another, the consonants of the sacred tetragram, and then, in an undertone, the blessed letters Aleph and the mysterious Tau, united in the Kabbalistic name Azoth. The pentagram should be placed upon the altar of perfumes and under the tripod of evocations. The operator should wear the sign also as well as that of the macrocosm, which is composed of 2 crossed and superimposed triangles, the hexagram. When a spirit of light is evoked, the head of the star, that is, one of its points, should be directed towards the tripod of evocations and the 2 inferior points towards the altar of perfumes. In the case of a spirit of darkness, the opposite course is pursued, but then the operator must be careful to set the end of the rod or the point of the sword upon the head of the pentagram. We have said that signs are the active voice of the word of will. Now, the word of will must be given in its completeness, so that it may be transformed into action, and a single negligence representing an idle speech or a doubt falsifies and paralyzes the whole process, turning back upon the operator all the forces thus expended in vain. We must therefore abstain absolutely from magical ceremonies, or scrupulously and exactly fulfill them all. The pentagram, engraved in luminous lines upon glass by the electrical machine, exercises also a great influence upon spirits and terrifies phantoms. The old magicians traced the sign of the pentagram upon their doorsteps to prevent evil spirits from entering and good spirits from departing. This constraint followed from the direction of the points of the star. 2 points on the outer side drove away the evil. 2 points on the inner side imprisoned them. 1 only on the inner side held good spirits captive. All these magical theories, based upon the one dogma of Hermes and on the analogical deductions of science, have been confirmed invariably by the visions of ecstasies, of ecstatics, and the paroxysms of cataleptics, declaring that they are possessed by spirits. The G, which Freemasons place in the middle of the blazing star, signifies gnosis and generation, the 2 sacred words of the ancient Kabbalah. It signifies also grand architect, for the pentagram on every side represents an A. And it also is G, like the big capital G God, the big G. By placing it in such a manner that two of its points are in the ascendant and one is below, we may see the horns, ears, and beard of the hierarchic goat of Mendes, when it becomes the sign of infernal evocations. The allegorical star of the Magi is no other than the mysterious pentagram. And those three kings, sons of Zoroaster, conducted by the blazing star to the cradle of the microcosmic God, are themselves a full demonstration of the Kabbalistic and magical beginnings of Christian doctrine. One of these kings is white, another black, and the third brown. The white king offers gold, symbol of light and life. The black king presents myrrh, image of death and of darkness. The brown king sacrifices incense, emblem of the conciliating doctrine of the two principles. They return thereafter into their own land by another road to show that a new cultus is only a new path, conducting man to one religion, being that of the sacred triad and the radiant pentagram, the sole eternal Catholicism. And there's a note on that that says the pentagram is the star of the Epiphany, lumen ad revelationem gentium. This star which the Magi saw in the east, this star of the absolute and the universal synthesis, opens to human aspirations the 50 gates of knowledge. It leads to the manger of the ox and ass in Bethlehem, the house of bread, that is, to the high reason of the humility of dogma, the elevation of the humble and laborious at the breaking of symbolical bread, sacrament of love and truth. The child and mother are two, the Magi three. These five explain the five rays of the star, and the Epiphany is a marvelous pentacle like all symbolical pictures of our Christian legend. St. John in the Apocalypse beholds this same star fall from heaven to earth. It is then called absinthe or wormwood, and all the waters of the sea become bitter, a striking image of the materialization of dogma, which produces fanaticism and the acridities of controversy. Then unto Christianity itself may be applied those words of Isaiah. How thou hast fallen from heaven, bright star, which wast so splendid in thy prime. But the pentagram, profaned by men, burns ever unclouded in the right hand of the word of truth, and the inspired voice guarantees to him that overcometh the possession of the morning star, a solemn promise of restitution held out to the star of Lucifer. And on that it says a note, it is obvious that no such restitution is implied by the promise in question, but it is said elsewhere and without the offense to logic and sense in the above statement that Lucifer, whom the Dark Ages represented as the genius of evil, will become truly the angel of light when having acquired liberty at the price of reprobation, he makes use of it in yielding to the eternal order and thus inaugurates the glories of willing obedience. As will be seen, all mysteries of magic, all symbols of the gnosis, all figures of occultism, all Kabbalistic keys of prophecy are summed up in the sign of the pentagram, which Paracelsus proclaimed to be the greatest and most potent of all signs. Need anyone be surprised, therefore, that every magus believes in the real influence exercised by this sign over spirits of all hierarchies? Those who set at naught the sign of the cross tremble before the star of the microcosm. On the contrary, when conscious of failing will, the magus turns his eyes towards this symbol, takes it in his right hand, and feels armed with intellectual omnipotence, provided that he is truly a king worthy to be led by the star to the cradle of divine realization, provided that he knows, dares, wills, and keeps silent, provided that he is familiar with the usages of the pentacle, the cup, the wand, and the sword, provided finally that the intrepid gaze of his soul corresponds to those two eyes which the ascending point of our pentagram ever presents open. All right, then. Not a bad way to start out the week. with some pentagram. Here, I'll put it back on that image for a minute. That one, there wasn't a good note on it. It just said the pentagram of Faust. Still pretty good. Well, all right then, everybody. Not a bad way to get back into the swing of things. Tomorrow we'll be learning about the number 6 in magic. Some things about Tiphareth, balance. So that ought to be swell as well. I hope you're enjoying life. I hope all is well in your worlds. And if not, like we saw in our tarot reading, well, sometimes that is the way it is. Sometimes you hit those dry spots. But we are swimming in the seas of change. Duality, right? What's bad today might very well be good tomorrow. Or vice versa. Maybe if you're in a spot where you're at the top of the world, well, I hate to tell you, just remember, it's going to rain sooner or later. That stormy weather is going to come in. Those swords of the mind are going to start trying to do battle with you. But each and every day we try to get a little better, huh? And that's the name of the game. All right, everyone. Well, I don't really have much else to say. I appreciate you all very much, though. Much love and many blessings. We'll be back at it tomorrow for more of this wonderful study here. And until then, this has been Jay Baldell. Bye-bye.